Hi, my name is Marnie Dow, and I serve as the Assistant Director for Student Involvement at UNLV. In addition, I'm the advisor to the Ways and Means Committee of CSUN Student Government. As of July 1st, 2020, the Ways and Means Committee will utilize the Involvement Center, which is our online portal for registered student organizations at UNLV, as a submission platform for RSO funding requests. In this webinar, we will provide you with a step-by-step tutorial on how to submit your funding request. In order to submit a funding request through the Involvement Center, you must be listed as an officer on your organization's roster. If you are an officer in your organization but are not noted on the roster, please have someone else who is on your officer list update your position in the Involvement Center. If you have any challenges doing so, feel free to reach out to the Involvement staff by email at involvement@unlv.edu. This is just a friendly reminder of why it is important to keep your organization's member and officer listing up to date on your roster. Let's review a checklist of things you need to have done or have ready before you begin. Review the funding guidelines that are outlined in the Ways and Means Operating Policy, which is available on the CSUN website. Completed line item budget utilizing the budget spreadsheet template provided on the CSUN website. A quote is required for all items you are requesting in your budget. Quotes can consist of screenshots from vendor websites, previous invoices, vendor emails, or anything else that helps us understand the cost of your request. All quotes must be consolidated into one PDF document for uploading to the Involvement Center. If you are requesting funding for costs from Student Union and Event Services, known as SUs, a copy of your reservation summary is also required. So what we're going to do is go ahead and create a sample funding request for you to see how this process works. First thing you need to do is navigate to the Involvement Center by typing in involvementcenter.unlv.edu in your browser. If you have not done so already, make sure that you sign in. You'll see a blue button in the top right corner to sign in using your ACE credentials. Once you're signed in, this is what your homepage will look like. It will look a little different from mine, but generally it will look like this. The difference will come under your memberships. Any organization you're listed as a member or officer on will show up in the memberships area. So the next thing you'll want to do is click on the organization for which you are submitting a funding request. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'll go ahead and use the source room, the Student Organization Resource Center, as an example. Once you click on your organization, you're looking for the Manage Organization button in the top right corner. Now, if you go to your page and you don't see the Manage Organization button, what that means is you are not listed as an officer on your organization. And as I mentioned earlier, you're unable to submit funding requests unless you are an officer for your organization. Go ahead and click the Manage Organization button, and it's going to bring up the main Manage page for your RSO. You're going to click the hamburger menu here in the top left corner, and then scroll down to the Finance section. Okay. You're looking for this blue button in the top right corner that says Create New Request. We're going to create a funding request. Understand that we do not use the purchase request section of the website. If you do click on that, a note will come up in that application that says that that is not how you submit funding requests. So you'll want to come back to this page. You're looking to click this button that says Create Funding Request. So now we'll walk through a sample funding request. So for the purposes of these, I'm going to type in several very short answers to questions there that may have opportunities to have longer answers, but I just want to show you what the application looks like. So the subject will be, for this, a test funding request for source. Oops. There we go. You'll enter in a description, the total amount you're requesting for your funding. I'm going to submit a funding request for $1,000. Your category will always be CSUN Ways and Means RSO funding, and you do need to select an account. When you click the select button, the only account that will show is the one for your student organization. Just click the select button and continue to move on. So please provide us with a phone number for which we can contact you, the total number of active members in your organization, the total number of those members who are undergraduate students. Remember that CSUN can only fund for undergraduate students because the dollars that CSUN uses come from undergraduate tuition. How many years has your organization been active on campus? I'm going to say that our organization has been active for 5 years. If we've ever received funding from CSUN in the past, we want to note that here. I'll say yes, and I want to give some information, so I might say received $500 in 2019. If you have more information available, please provide it as well. As much detail you can provide to us is helpful. You'll want to note if we have any sponsors or if we fundraise in other ways. We might say fundraised additional $500 through a bake sale. Okay. This is where you're going to provide a description of your organization. I'm just going to write description in here to make this quickly, but this is where you're going to want to give a few sentences about who your organization is and how it benefits the UNLV community. The same thing, I'm just going to put in an explanation here, but in this question, we're asking you to give us information about what you're requesting, why you're requesting it, and how your organization is going to use those funds to better either the organization or the UNLV community as a whole. This is where you want to give us a bit of a narrative about your funding request. Please note for us how you heard about the Ways and Means funding. I'll say that I heard about it from a friend. Now this is where we're going to ask you some more detailed questions. All student organizations, in order to receive funding, need to have an EIN or tax ID. If you're unfamiliar with that, you can click here for more information. But I'll say, yes, we have a tax ID. And then I'm just going to put in, it will look similar to this with numerical digits. Is your organization an NSHE registered supplier that is required to receive funding from CSUN? Again, if you're unfamiliar, click here to check. But yes, we are a registered NSHE supplier. Are you financially sponsored or managed by a department at UNLV? The number of student orgs who have access to this is very small, but if you are a student organization who is managed by a university account, you would provide that information here. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to say no. Does your organization charge member dues? Source does not, but I might say, if they were a regular organization, I might say that we charge $50 per semester. Okay, so as I mentioned, you'll need a line item budget, which follows the template provided by the Ways and Means Committee. Again, if you need access to that template, you can click on this link. But this is where we'll go ahead and upload the budget that we've created for our organization. I'm going to hit the upload file button and then choose that file from my files. And click OK. If that funding request included money for SOs, I would want to upload a reservation summary here. As we mentioned earlier, all funding requests require quotes that show us the cost of what you're requesting. So I'll go ahead and upload. Again, you need to consolidate multiple quotes if you have them into one PDF file. So I'll go ahead and upload my quote here. And then if this is an application for the new organization startup fund, I would want to note that as well. I'm going to say no. If you're unfamiliar with the new organization startup fund, we'd encourage you to read about it in the Ways and Means operating policy. And then the last question is asking if there's any other information you think that the committee needs to know about your funding request. This is where you would give us any details that you think we need to consider that haven't already been noted in your application. So then the last thing you need to do is hit submit request. And that's it. You'll see your funding request has been submitted right here. When you come back to this page, you can see all funding requests. As you can see, we've done a few tests on this page, but I submitted this one right now, and the status is unapproved, and it is in stage 1. In a separate webinar, we'll explain to you about how to check the status of your funding request and an explanation of the stages and how it moves through the process. Thank you for joining us in this webinar. If you have any additional questions about how to submit your funding request, please feel free to reach out to us at waysandmeans@unlv.edu. Thanks.